Welcome to Exploring Birth Family Connection. My name is Natasha Sawicki and I'm the Post-Adopt Coordinator in Bismarck, North Dakota. In this webinar, you'll learn a little bit more about different family connections and why it's important, if adopting, to keep families and siblings together and connected. Children and youth will thrive when the important adults in their lives build relationships and institute policies and practices to support these relationships. I'm going to share a video here next on a video of some brothers getting adopted into two different families.
And it's behind this photo. It shows those four brothers right there up for adoption. They were looking for a forever family. Some friends stepped in, and the rest is history. It's Jesse Palmer has a story.
It's a photo that captured our hearts. Four brothers adopted by two families.
We decided to grow our family through adoption. Michael is 6. He loves to laugh and play. There's Jess, who is 5, and he has cerebral palsy.
My name is Jess.
We hear from people all the time about how beautiful Jess is and how he just lights up. And then there's Camden, who is 4. He's a typical 4-year-old.
But it's also a story of how one friendship transcended ordinary expectations.
My friend Julie called, and she was in the process of adopting 3 beautiful little boys from foster care.
Their caseworker pulled us aside and said, "Your boys have a baby brother, and were we interested?" We knew that going from 2 to 5 children and then one that has major special needs, that somebody was going to suffer.
Our house didn't even cross my mind initially.
If we didn't adopt him, he would be over 1,000 miles away.
I called Julie back and I said, no matter what, we would always make sure that these boys that they were family and that they knew they were family.
They're brothers.
When Elijah is with his brothers, he just lights up.
Because big brothers are all right.
He's really into staying hut right now and throwing football.
It was kind of hectic, trying to get all 4 boys to smile and look, and especially get Elijah to hold the sign because he was just wanting to throw it. When you read the signs and you see how long they've been in foster care and that we're finally adopted, it's beautiful.
And so 1,290 days later, the story of 4 brothers and 2 families is only just beginning.
Michael's old enough that he's always going to remember that he got adopted on the same day as his brothers.
I have not given them a gift. They have given us a gift. We are not the same people that we were before.
For Good Morning America, Jesse Palmer, ABC News.
At the Center for Adoption Support and Education, also known as CASE, we consistently see young adoptees struggling to figure out who they are. Many with conflicted memories of birth families and others without knowledge of where they came from, who brought them into this world. Children in foster care and those adopted are challenged by a loss that is unique from other losses due to the ambiguity of the loss. Children may spend a great deal of time wondering about their birth parents. Are they okay? Do they ever think of me? Will they ever forget me? Many children spend a great time fantasizing about seeing their birth family again. So learning more about the importance of birth family and continued contact. In this, adoptive families are very different than traditional biological families. The decision to add family members to your family through a core process is similar to the decision to make a permanent commitment to your spouse through marriage. It makes a choice to be a family. Conflicted memories of birth families and others without knowledge of where they came from, who brought them into this world. Children in foster care and those adopted are challenged by a loss that is unique from other losses due to the ambiguity of this loss. Helping your children learn their identity. It's no longer a matter of if, it's when. It's no longer a matter of will they have contact, it's how will they have contact. The biggest issue facing all adoptive people is achieving a sense of identity that requires some connection to their biological parents. Understanding where you come from, all of who you are, helps you to be whole. We've all recognized the need for medical information for adopted youth. They have a right to know what to expect as health issues arise. What we may not have recognized is that they also have a right to know and understand the people from whom they come. Those genes have helped shape their appearance, their sense of humor, their way of processing the challenges they face, and many more. While we may think we are protecting our children from hard-to-hear information, we may be robbing them of what makes them them and who they are. Youth in out-of-home care need positive relationships and connections with the people in their lives. They especially need to stay connected with their birth parents and other family members to maintain a sense of belonging and connection with relatives. In an adoption, contact between birth parents, adoptive parents, and as appropriate, the adopted child allows family members to communicate and stay connected. Supporting these relationships is in the best interest of the child, and ongoing contact between adoptive and birth family members may minimize the child's feelings of grief and loss, reduce the trauma of separation, and help the child develop a stronger sense of identity. This communication may change over time and can include infrequent contact, mediation contact through a third party, email or letters, or ongoing in-person interaction. The next slide here will talk about shared parenting and the potential benefits. Creating supportive relationships and sharing information with birth parents may enhance your child's development, learning, and well-being by encouraging the child to return to the child role. It also might decrease children's defiant behavior by reducing the child's desire or need to demonstrate loyalty to the birth family. It might also provide information and insights that enable parents to meet your children's needs earlier and in a more effective way, thus helping children and reducing parent frustration. It might also reduce conflict with birth parents over various issues, including grooming. The last one could be that it could create a positive connection between the adoptive parents, the child, and the child's biological family, which is very important. This is a quote I enjoy, and then I'll also let you listen to a video of a lady talking about family connection. We decided early on that as long as it was safe, there were just too many positive benefits of maintaining contact with children's biological families. Here are some factors to consider for an open adoption. Research tells us that openness in adoption is beneficial for everyone involved, but mostly for the adopted person. What research does not tell us is how to encourage families to live openness authentically, and navigate challenging new territory on behalf of children who are adopted and can't remain in their original families. Some people experience anxiety at the prospect of this unique relationship in their lives, and some families find this aspect of their adoption journey challenging. To ensure that a child feels loved and supported by all family members, both birth and adoptive families, here are some things to keep in mind. For so many years, adoption was not something people openly discussed. So a lot of stereotypes and misconceptions continue to cause confusion and concern. And the ideas of more openness and true connection to birth families may be a hard concept to understand and put into practice. Since there are no best practice standards for openness, there are very different degrees and definitions of openness and adoption. People often have reservations about their roles in each other's lives. Birth and adoptive parents often lack support and education surrounding openness, which can fuel their concerns. But with the right supports and knowledge from professionals in place, more families can experience openness in a more positive and fulfilling way. One of the things to consider would be an icebreaker meeting. An icebreaker meeting is a facilitated conversation between birth parents and foster or kinship parents centered on the needs of the child or youth in your care. Ideally, an icebreaker meeting should be held 3 to 10 days after a child or youth is placed with a new family to discuss their needs, their routines, likes and dislikes, and this will hopefully help set them up for success.
The icebreaker simply is a planned meeting between the birth parent and the foster parent, facilitated by the social worker. The private agency social worker for the foster parent may be in attendance, and the youth may be in attendance. Very simple purposes. We want to be able to have the foster parent and the birth parent meet face to face. Kind of get rid of all of those misconceptions and perceptions about each other. And of course, importantly, we need to share information about the care of the child.
Know the parent is to know the child. And if you know the parent, then you're going to know a lot more about that child.
To be able to sit down with that parent and ask the questions about day-to-day living, if they're allergic to strawberries, are they afraid of the dark?
What medication this child is on, versus someone being able to tell them that. And so now is an opportunity to hear directly from the person who's been caring for that child last.
When I met mom, she was bitter and angry and looking at me very unpleasant. The turning point for us was just us meeting face to face and her actually sitting down and telling me, Kenyatta, I do not want your child. My main purpose is for you and your child to be together. I am just here caring for your child until you're able to do it for yourself. It wasn't that she was trying to take my place. It was that she had a genuine caring heart. And it motivated me even more to want to be there. She became more of a sister and someone that I looked up to, something that I never really, had in my life. The icebreaker meetings, I think, is a wonderful thing for the birth parent as well as the foster parent. I think is very important in bridging the gap because you get an opportunity to meet the birth parent as well as the foster parent, in a neutral setting where, there's a mediator, there's a whole support system around you.
I've seen children be able to speak about their two parents, their two sets of parents, and their two houses, and claiming both of those as a part of their lives.
And now Kaisha just doesn't even remember being in foster care. She thinks that it was a period of time where she was at Mommy Tina's house for the summer.
It is possible to build successful, nurturing, supportive relationships between foster parents and birth parents.
I think sometimes when we think it's hard, and it is hard some days, to schedule the icebreaker and get it on the calendar and get everybody together in the same room, I think we have to remind ourselves why we're doing this and ultimately why we're in this work. And that is because we care about kids and we care about what happens to them. And if we're going to remove a child from their family, we have to ensure that we're providing them the best possible care while they're in our care. And so part of that requires us doing some hard things, like scheduling a meeting, bringing two people in the room who've never met to share information and build a relationship.
We need to always have the child's best interest in mind. Openness may be challenging, but it is worth the hard work. We know from research and experience that for adopted persons, having access to all aspects of their history is important for healthy identity development. Considering a child's needs throughout her development and learning tools to sustain relationships between birth and adoptive families go a long way in helping a child strengthen their identity. Nurturing a strong relationship between the two families and focus on what's best for the child. It may not always be easy, but few meaningful relationships in our lives are. If you take a minute to think outside the box a bit, you may just find that openness will make your adoption experience much richer than you could have ever imagined. The definition of family is changing. New ideas about who we consider family are evolving. Consider the TV show Modern Family, which portrays a blended, non-traditional family, helping to expand our thinking. Adoption also creates a variety of new relationships in our lives, each of which comes with strengths and challenges. The relationships between members of the extended family of adoption are similar then to other unique relationships we may already have in our lives. And so these ideas of extended family related to adoption don't have to be as different as they appear. Communication and commitment are key. All families will experience highs and lows. Two key things to remember are communication and commitment. When we have concerns in our relationships, communicating our feelings in a genuine and respectful manner is the best routine to reach a resolution. Share your concerns, but with a willingness to be flexible in arriving at a resolution. The relationship between birth and adoptive families is an important one to nurture and sustain because it will create an organic way of being connected, which will benefit the child throughout his or her development and well into adulthood. The idea of openness can be used beyond adoption and be applied to all kinds of families and different things going on in our lives. This could be a family formed via assisted reproductive technology, families who are experiencing divorce or being remarried, and also having blended families. It can just be working with our work families, our neighbors. It can be very great to be open and honest and just have communication so that every day can be a great day for everyone. These next slides are going to be 7 considerations for you. So you're trying to determine whether to allow contact with your child's biological family. Here are some ideas and things to consider before allowing or not allowing this contact. Safety. Safety is the #1 concern when it comes to continued contact with a child's biological family. This is a no-brainer. If the biological family is somehow very dangerous, stay away. While the children may have been declared unsafe in their home, they may be safe in a supervised neutral location. So this is always a consideration that maybe you can do supervised visits with them. If the family is not safe, then it might be something to consider staying away from family or looking maybe later down the road, checking in with them to make sure that things have changed, whether it be drug usage, alcohol usage, safe people that they're with. Just always make sure that you're being open but make sure your child is always safe. The second consideration would be immediate impact on the child or children. What behavioral impact does contact with family have on the child? Is it severe and life-altering enough to interfere with their well-being? How does the family treat the child? Does the family want contact? If the impacts to the children are negative, the family doesn't want to see the child for whatever reason, whether it's too painful or they're just not interested, or the family treats the child or your family poorly in words or actions, contact should not continue. Talk through whether the relationship should continue and how it can continue, and contact can be limited. Long-term identity for your children. Everyone experiences times in their life where they search out their own identity, but this is often difficult for adopted children with gaps in their personal history. Birth-family relationships allow a way for these gaps to be filled in. So having connection with your children with their birth families can allow them to be able to find out some information, whether it be medical information, where they come from, what color eyes did their grandparents or parents have, depending on who they are able to be in contact with. So this helps with identity, which is a very important aspect to anybody in their life. The next consideration is information. There are so many questions we cannot answer for our adopted children as adoptive parents. One question could be, did anyone in the family have genetic medical issues? What was the child's birth story? Were they born premature? What was their early development like if they were not adopted as an infant? How were their names chosen? Who do they look like? Where did their family originate from? Who are my extended family members so I don't unknowingly marry my cousin? Adoptees have a right to their family information, just like we do. All these questions are legitimate questions that it's nice to know the information to. The next consideration would be the type of contact. Openness and contact in adoption lies on a large continuum, from simply sending information and pictures to being on an ongoing part of daily life. Frequency can vary and may change up and down with schedules and circumstances. Visits can be a quick hello on the phone, exchanging photos, or updates via text message. The type of contact is dictated by all the other 6 considerations. Another important consideration is timing. Be advised you may need to allow some time to pass after TPR, which is the termination of parental rights, before beginning visits or calls. Time brings healing, and often wounds are too fresh for both children and family to have contact in the beginning. A new normal can be established in the lives of everyone involved, providing a basis for healthy interaction. Finally, the last one is the child's wishes. The desires of the child, along with their age and reasoning ability, should be taken into consideration, and these likely will change over time. Do they want to see their biological family now, maybe later? Discuss the possible outcomes as a family and keep communication open. The next slide here is key questions for families and professionals to consider. For the child, who is important to them? What would it help them to know as they grow up? What contact does everyone want? What are the goals of the contact? Are there questions to be answered? Are they wanting to just have the connection and get to know their birth family? To what extent can adoptive parents and birth family members work together to achieve these goals? What risks might there be? This is always important, like we talked, the safety of your child is very important. What type and level of contact can people commit to and sustain, and what support might they need to do so? Having continued consistent connection is very important, and if that is not something that the biological family is going to be able to do, you might need to take a look at that, as that will be a disruption again for your child. And what is the process for reviewing plans if they need to change? We all know things get busy and life does need to change sometimes. So having a plan to review if there needs to be some changes is important as well, so that we can continue and have consistency with our child and the visits. So continued, some other key factors to think about would be, what forms of communication is your child comfortable with? Are they able to write letters, send emails? Do they want to do videos? Social media is always an option. Do they want to make phone calls? Do they actually want to have visits in person? And this can also change as well. You might want to just start out with letters and then move on as they feel more comfortable. What does contact between your family and your child's birth family mean to your child? Is your child wanting you guys to be involved also in these birth family meetings, or is it just something that they want to start out with? What role will your child's birth parents play in your child's life? Are you wanting them to be invited to birthdays, to important celebrations, to school activities? Will you send them letters, schoolwork, things that might be important to them? And the fourth one is, how will your contact with one child's birth family affect adopted siblings who have different relationships in their adoption, if you have other adopted children? This might be something to also visit with and kind of consider in your family. Children adopted after difficult early life experiences may have long-term problems in their development and relationships. Birth family contact may neither resolve nor exacerbate these difficulties. How children do is determined more by their pre-adoption experiences than such subsequent contact that may have been with birth relatives. Nevertheless, contact of good quality is valued by all involved. The information I learned and photos I saw made me feel like I was learning about myself, where my nose came from, why I enjoyed art so much, and this was from somebody who was adopted, a young person aged 19. Contact is about mutual learning, a chance for everyone to learn about everyone else. Myths can be dispelled, empathy built, and feelings of loss managed if birth and adoptive families provide answers for each other to significant questions of identity. But you cannot take pain out of contact. For the child, contact demonstrates that their adoptive parents are open to talking about adoption. Contact letters and meetings provide a natural opportunity for adoptive parents to talk to their child. There is a sense of working on complex issues together, and divided loyalties for the child are softened. Face-to-face contact, in particular, appears to help adoptive parents and children communicate thoughts, facts, and feelings about adoption. For some, contact is about staying in touch with or getting to know important people. Children who know and love their birth relatives don't want to lose them. Children can treasure meetings with them. These relationships do not necessarily intrude on relationships between children and their adoptive parents. Indeed, adoptive parents supporting contact with valued birth family members can draw the members of the adoptive family closer. It's important to remember, with social media, if they want to find their birth family, they will be able to do this. It's important to be involved and talk with them about this and show support as long as it's safe and appropriate. It's always better to be involved where you can help facilitate and help this to be a positive experience, finding their family. Ongoing contact when there is a safety concern. In some cases, contact with a child's birth parents may result in additional trauma for a child who has already been traumatized by abuse or neglect. If your child's relationship with his or her birth family involves a safety concern, it may be in his or her best interest for you to arrange ongoing contact that is supervised or limited to contact made indirectly through a mediator, such as an agency caseworker or therapist, or through letters and or photos sent to an anonymous post office box or email address. This is also something that we do here at Post Adopt. We are able to help with family contact. So if this is something that you are needing help with, feel free to reach out to your caseworker. This approach to contact may be appropriate if the birth parent has a mental or substance use disorder and is unable to maintain a healthy relationship or respect appropriate boundaries with your child. Such precautions may also apply if a birth parent has previously directed physical, emotional, and or sexual abuse or violence towards your child and has not sought help to address these behaviors. Here are some ideas for contact. I know we've talked a little bit about them in previous slides, but some different ones could be a recordable storybook. You know, they have these that you could have your child or the biological family read a story and either give it to your child or have the child give it to their biological family. This would be a wonderful memory for them. You could also create a YouTube channel, and on this you could create videos for families to watch, or they could do it vice versa for your child to watch. I've also had it where a family specific email address where you just send it back and forth and only you and the family have connection to that, and so you can just send emails back and forth as needed, send pictures. You can also just do the typical letters to and from each other. You could do video chats. There's also social media contact, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Like I'd mentioned before, this is also something that Post Adopt is able to also help with due to the fact that some families do not want their biological families to know their address, but are more than willing to help with contact. So this is something that we can do here at Post Adopt. Feel free to reach out to us. Some resources to assist in maintaining birth family connections. So you could contact or talk with adoption professionals who understand the value of children or youth maintaining contact with their birth families. Connect with other adoptive families who maintain contact with their children's birth families. You could also meet with a counselor or therapist with knowledge and experience in building relationships between adoptive and birth families. You could also read online articles about birth family contact, including websites that provide information and research, as well as blogs about personal experiences. One example is the article Helping Children Connect with Their Birth Parents from the North American Council on Adoptable Children. Thank you for attending the webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at nsawicki@catholicharitiesnd.org. Here is a list of some of the resources that I used to get some information for my webinar today. There are so many more out there, lots more videos, and I just want to urge and say that it's important to keep birth family contact if possible. I understand it can be hard and not always easy, but it's something that's very important to lifelong connections and just having a better life for our kiddos. Feel free to reach out if you do have any questions. Thanks again.